The first night she slept under my roof, I realized the house was no longer safe, not for me, and not for the people who thought they owned me. My father didn't ask, he ordered. You have to take care of her, he said. His voice cold, final, as if blood erased history. My sister stood behind him, eyes hollow, suitcase in her hand. Divorced, broken, returned, everyone saw a victim, no one remembered who she used to be. I did. The house smelled different after she moved in, like old perfume and unfinished apologies. Her room was across from mine. Thin wall, thinner piece. Every night I heard her crying softly, rehearsed like a performance meant for invisible judges. I kept my door locked. Not because I was afraid of her, because I was afraid of what I might remember. Years ago she had taken something from me, something that never grows back. She smiled while doing it. And my father had chosen her side. You're the older one, he'd said back then. Be quiet, be strong. Silence had become my second language. Now she was back, and silence followed her like a shadow. At dinner, my father watched me closely. Make sure she's comfortable, he said. My sister didn't look at me. She stirred her food slowly, like time itself owed her patience. I don't need much, she whispered. Just peace. Peace. The word tasted bitter. That night she knocked on my door, 3 soft taps. Careful, calculated. I couldn't sleep, she said when I opened it. Her eyes were red but dry. I did. Every detail. I remembered the lies. The way truth bent around her voice. I remember, I said. She smiled faintly. I'm glad you're here for me. For the first time. I understood something clearly. She didn't come back to heal. She came back to survive, and survival has a cost. Days passed, then weeks. I played my role perfectly. I cooked, I listened. I said nothing. I became the calm son. The reliable brother. My father relaxed, his guard dropped. That's when I started watching. She made phone calls late at night. Short ones. Whispered. She asked strange questions about property papers, about old family decisions. Once I saw her going through my father's drawer. She froze when she saw me. Oh, she said lightly. He asked me to find something. I nodded, smiled, walked away. Dangerous people never rush, they wait. I learned that from her. One evening my father collapsed in the living room. Not serious, just enough to scare him. Just enough to remind him he was no longer in control of his own body. At the hospital my sister cried loudly, held his hand, told everyone how much she loved him. I stood in the corner quiet, watching the monitors beep like a countdown. Later that night, she sat beside me in the hospital hallway. If something happens to him, she said softly. Yes, I replied. It does. She looked at me then. Really looked. For the first time since she came back, there was a pause, a long one. You've changed, she said. So have you? She smiled. But it didn't reach her eyes. That was the moment I knew she was planning something big. And she believed I was still the same silent boy she could control. She was wrong. Because while she was trying to take the house, the money, the sympathy, I was preparing something else. Something slower, something she would never see coming. That night, as I sat alone in my room, my phone buzzed, an unknown number. One message. I know what you did back then. I stared at the screen, my heartbeat steady, my mind clear. The game had finally begun. The message stayed on my screen long after the phone went dark. I didn't reply, not yet. Silence has weight. Used correctly. The next morning my sister acted normal, too normal. She made breakfast, hummed softly, even asked if I wanted sugar in my tea. Her hands were steady, her eyes were not. She kept glancing at my phone, lying face down on the table like a secret between us. Our father watched us both, suspicious but tired. Illness had shrunk him. Power was leaking out of him slowly like blood from a wound he refused to acknowledge. I'm thinking of changing the will, he said, suddenly stirring his tea. Just to make things clear. The spoon stopped clinking. My sister smiled first. Whatever makes you comfortable, Dad. I said nothing. He looked at me. You're quiet. I'm listening. I replied. At night the unknown number called. I answered. You took your time, a man's voice said. Low, controlled. Say what you know, I replied. A pause, then a quiet laugh. She didn't think you'd remember. She told everyone you were weak. That you'd forget. My grip tightened. Who are you? Someone who paid for her mistakes. Someone she ruined before she ruined herself. The line went dead. I didn't sleep. Over the next few days pieces started aligning. Old names surfaced. A business deal from years ago. A false accusation, a signature forged. My sister's pattern revealed itself like a crime scene under the right light. She wasn't just surviving, she was cleaning up. One evening I found her in the garage going through old boxes. She didn't jump when she saw me. You're awake late, she said, so are you. She picked up a dusty file. Dad keeps everything, it's unhealthy. Or useful. I said. She looked at me then, eyes sharp. You've always been observant. That's why I'm glad you're on my side. I almost smiled. Later, I installed a small camera in the hallway outside my room. Not for protection, for records. Truth needs witnesses. That same night I caught her entering my room while I pretended to sleep. She moved slowly, carefully. Checked my desk, my drawers, my phone. She found nothing. Because the real evidence wasn't in the house anymore. At breakfast, my father announced he had an appointment with a lawyer. My sister offered to drive him. I interrupted. I'll go, I said calmly. Her eyes flickered just for a second. At the office, while my father spoke with the lawyer behind closed doors, I sat in the waiting area. My phone buzzed again. A photo this time, an old document. My name on it. Her handwriting at the bottom. Forgery, another message fall away. She thinks you're still quiet. Don't prove her right. When we got home, my sister was already there, waiting. She asked how the meeting went. I said. That night, she confronted me in the kitchen. No smiles, no softness. You've been talking to people, she said. So her voice dropped. You don't know how dangerous this is. I do, I replied. That's why I'm calm. For the first time I saw fear in her eyes, not panic, but calculation failing. The doorbell rang, we both turned. Through the frosted glass I saw two silhouettes, one tall, one familiar. My sister whispered. Who did you tell? I walked to the door, hand steady on the handle. I didn't tell, I said. I listened. As I opened the door, the past stepped inside the house, and everything we had buried came with it. The man who stepped inside carried the past in his eyes. He was older than I remembered, thinner, but the scar on his jaw, long and even, was unmistakable. My sister froze, not in shock, in recognition. Hello, he said quietly. My father emerged from the living room, confused. Who is this? No one, my sister said too quickly. An old acquaintance. The man smiled without warmth. That's one word for it. I closed the door behind him. The lock clicked, small sound. Heavy meaning. We sat at the dining table like strangers pretending to be family. My father watched the tension move between us, invisible but sharp. I'll make tea, my sister said, standing abruptly. Sit, the man said. Not loud. Certain, she sat. I didn't come for drama, he continued. I came because silence finally got expensive. My father looked at me. What is this? I met his eyes. Truth, I said, late, but necessary. The man pulled out a folder, not thick, just enough. He slid it across the table toward my father. Your daughter destroyed my business, he said calmly. She forged documents. Used your company's name. When I pushed back, she accused me of things that couldn't be undone. My sister laughed sharply. You're lying. He didn't react. You told the police I threatened you. You cried on television. My father opened the folder with trembling hands. Paper dates, signatures, his signature. I never signed this, he whispered. No, I said softly, you didn't. My sister stood up. This is insane. Sit, my father said now. His voice had changed. She didn't. Sit, he repeated louder. She looked at him, stunned. The power dynamic cracked. I watched quietly. This wasn't my scene to steal. I waited years. Courts don't fix everything. Time doesn't either. But people make mistakes when they think they've won. My sister turned to me. You did this. I shook my head. You did. I just remembered. Her eyes filled with tears, not the soft, the desperate kind. You don't understand, she said to my father. I did it for us, for the family. For control, I replied. Silence fell. Thick, suffocating. That night, my father didn't sleep, and I heard her pacing. Phone calls, whispers, damage control in real time. By morning, she was gone. No note, no goodbye. Her room empty except for one thing she didn't have time to take. A small locked box under her bed. I opened it. Inside were copies of documents, flash drives, and a notebook filled with names, transactions, plans. Futures that were never meant to be shared. She hadn't just destroyed one man. She'd built an entire life on quiet ruins. Days passed. My father grew distant, older. The house felt hollow without her voice, but heavier without her lies. Then the calls started. Lawyers, unknown numbers. People asking questions they shouldn't have known how to ask. One evening, as I stood by the window, my phone buzzed again. Her number, one message. You think you won. You have no idea what I left behind. I didn't reply. Outside, a car idled across the street. Engine running, lights off. I smiled. She always underestimated patience. And she had forgotten one thing. I was raised in her shadow. And shadows learn everything. The car across the street stayed there every night after that. Different driver, same silence. I didn't report it. I didn't confront it. I let it sit because pressure reveals truth faster than force ever could. My father finally spoke 3 days later. We were alone in the living room, the television muted, the house breathing around us. I failed you, he said without looking at me. The words landed heavier than any apology had imagined. She was loud, he continued. You were quiet. I nodded once. Not forgiveness, not yet, just acknowledgement. That night I made the call I had been delaying. The man with the scar answered immediately. I said. I know, he replied. She's desperate. Good, I said. That makes people honest. We set the trap simply, no threats, no bargains. Just truth offered at the right moment. She contacted me 2 nights later, not by message. In person, she showed up at the house after midnight, rain-soaked eyes burning with exhaustion and fear. The confident woman who once controlled rooms now stood unsure at the door she used to own. I need help, she said. I stepped aside and let her in. She talked fast, too fast. About people after her. About deals gone wrong. I just need time, she said. Money. Protection. I listened, patient, calm. You left evidence, I said finally. She stopped. What? The box. The files. The names. I met her eyes. You didn't plan to disappear. Her face hardened. You went through my things. You taught me how to look, I replied. Silence stretched between us. Then her voice dropped. You think exposing me will save you, she said. I made enemies you can't imagine. I don't need to imagine them, I said. I invited them. Her breath caught. That's when the doorbell rang. Once, she turned slowly. Closure. I said. The man with the scar stepped inside, followed by 2 others, people whose lives she had crossed and never thought would align. She backed away. This is a setup. Yes, I said. A clean one. She laughed suddenly, sharp and bitter. You always wanted to be brave. No, I corrected. I wanted to be free. The police arrived an hour later, not in chaos, in order, documents submitted, statements ready, truth already waiting. She didn't scream when they took her. She looked at me once, really looked. You were never weak, she said quietly. I know. I replied. Months passed. The house felt lighter. My father recovered slowly, learning how to live without commanding silence. We spoke more. Sometimes we didn't. Healing isn't loud. The car never returned. One evening, I stood alone in my room. The same room where years ago I learned how dangerous family could be. My phone buzzed with one final notification, news of a plea deal, names exchanged, empires quietly dismantled. I turned the phone off. Revenge didn't feel like victory, it felt like balance. I hadn't destroyed her, I let the truth do that. And for the first time in my life, the house was finally quiet, not with fear but with peace.